Hey folks, I'm Midnight Honker, and this game is called Menace. It's made by the Battle Brothers devs. It's sort of their follow-up to Battle Brothers, if you've played that before. It's a little bit XCOM. It's a little bit Company of Heroes. It's basically what you'd expect out of a sort of tactical strategy kind of game, except, it is kind of its own thing, and I think it's pretty cool. It is in early access, so it's still got some development to go. So overall, it might not be a total package quite yet, but I think it's a really good sort of basis for something that I think could end up being really special, similar to Battle Brothers. I really like Battle Brothers, so if you're aware of that game, I think this will scratch a similar itch for you, perhaps unsurprisingly. But you know what? Let's get into it. Let me show you the game. Let's stop yapping here. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Okay, here we are, folks. This is the Menace. I guess you would call this the system map, sort of the overworld, kind of outside of missions screen. This is your kind of overarching strategy layer to the game. There's a combat part of the game that we will get into later. But for now, let's show you the system map and sort of what you'll be doing out here. So a quick rundown of all the systems. You have 4 different types of currency, effectively, 4 different sort of resources you want to be tracking. You've got promotion points, which are used to upgrade your squads. You've got authority, which you use to basically keep everybody in line. If this falls too low, you can start to get negative modifiers on your squads. And if it gets high, you get little bonuses. The main thing this is used for overall, though, is to hire new people. Hiring new squad leaders from this menu requires a cost of authority. So that's kind of the thing. It kind of stops you from hiring too many people too quickly. OCI components are used to upgrade your ship here. You have your ship. This save has already got some progress made, so, when you notice I have some upgrades here that you do not start with. You start with a lot fewer, and you have to kind of build up to it. These are a little costly, but you can upgrade these, and these will help you with things like the medical bay, which keeps, squad mates alive. The minigun strafing edition here allows you to call in a minigun during the missions. And then this stuff gives you more manpower, which makes this little squaddies thing go up, which we will get to in a second. So you want to be upgrading this ship. That's another big thing you're going to be doing in the game. This stuff is nice. You can get stuff like intelligence, just overall passive, generally passive benefits to make the game a little easier and stuff like that. So the squaddies thing makes sense once we come in here. This resource, squaddies, is used to basically reinforce your squad here. So all these units here are squad leaders, and you add squaddies with this little button here. And you need to have enough to add the squaddies. If I didn't have enough squaddies here, I would have to maybe go in with a little less. And the fewer squaddies you have, the less hit points you have, also the less damage you do. Just because, you have less people shooting. You just have less people shooting. And so you do less damage. You're not as effective. You want to come in with full strength if you can, overall. So yeah, those are the 4 resources, generally, with a really quick rundown of what they are. And then, of course, you have your squad units here. There are 2 different types of squad units. There's infantry and vehicle, or they often refer to them as pilots. So these units obviously can use these vehicles. I have quite a few more because, again, this is a save that is, maybe like 10, 15 hours in. And so, the pilots can use vehicles, obviously, and the infantry are the ones that you equip with weapons. And as you can see here, you equip them with different stuff. I have a lot to choose from. Again, really, when you start the game, you really only have this. I have more stuff to choose from. Here is where you promote them. This is where you spend those promotion points I was showing you earlier. You can choose different perks, basically. These perks can vary from more health to, oh, 100% more morale damage, which is a mechanic in the combat part of things. And then straight up to like active abilities like this one that you can activate to get some of your ammo and stuff back. So yeah, this is how you make your squads better, your squad leaders technically better, by spending promotion points on them. The next thing on this map is the black market. This is where you buy stuff, buy weapons, accessories, vehicle modules, new vehicles even. This is where you can hire more squaddies, make this number go up if you want. This is where you can get a dossier that will add another unit here for you to hire. And you basically want to sell off stuff that you find while doing missions. When you kill stuff, it will drop this, or, potentially you will get it as a mission reward, things like that. And that is basically, trade value that you can use here to get stuff. So, I can show you, let me balance this out and trade here. There you go. And now I can go to the hiring tab and I can see this is a new unit that I can hire. And I don't believe this guy was available. So when I first started the game, I had like maybe 10 units to choose from. I don't remember this guy being on there. I don't think he was on there, and nor was this guy who I got. So there's a bunch of these squad leaders that are not available from the start for you to get access to, which is pretty cool, because they are unique. These are unique units. They have like these unique perks that basically alter the way you play them effectively. Like Darby here makes it so that her attacks disable enemy special weapons for 1 turn. That's pretty cool if somebody's trying to hit you with a rocket or something. Lim here is cheaper to promote. That's pretty cool. Also, their tree is a little bit different. There's definitely some overlap. Like buff is something pretty much everybody has. Same with athletic. But then there's like kind of unique stuff that only, maybe not only they have, but are more unique to them. And the cool thing that I like is that these squad leaders are unique. They have their own voice lines, they have their own personality, the little story snippet here, obviously their own art, and they will interact with each other. They will, bark out stuff when they are, killing somebody or things aren't going well. They'll say stuff, and it is unique to them. It isn't just like generic guy with like just this portrait being different, right? It is, unique, and they have their own voicing. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool, instead of these just being, like I said, just generic units. They are unique, and that makes it cool. That makes me excited to try different units out, just to see different voice lines, if not, the actual gameplay being different. So I think that's pretty rad. Next up to show you is the factions in the game. There are currently 3 of them that I know of. I don't know if there's more, but early access, so I figure probably not. Now, the main benefit to the factions, you do missions for them. Each faction is represented by a planet. There are 3 planets that I currently can go to. I assume, considering there are others, and even maybe these moons kind of look, kind of neat, that probably there will be more factions, I would wager. And so I would fully expect more factions to be in the game later. But for now, there are at least 3. And they are each planet is their home. This one is the Backbone planet. This one is the Dice of the Gods planet. This one's Zane Beecher Corp, which I don't currently have a mission for, so I can't click on it. But each one is different. Like this one's a snow planet, or ice rather. This one's kind of a temperate foresty planet, and so there are trees on the map. And this one's a desert planet, so it's pretty barren, some rocks around, but generally like, large stretches of no cover, frankly. And then this, the forest planet can have a ton of trees that can either be an asset or a hindrance. But the factions themselves, doing missions on their planet will get you more trust, which gets you more unlocks for a potential OCI upgrades. OCI, I'm going to call these modules. Yeah, I'm going to call these modules. I don't know what the correct name is for them, but Yeah. This lets you unlock them. Like the recovery teams is one I unlocked from a faction, Zane Beecher. So I unlocked this. This means when vehicles are lost in battle, they no longer get permanently destroyed. That's pretty nice. But then on this map, you have these 3 planets to choose from. You have missions to do, operations rather. The missions are represented by these pips. So this operation is encompassed by 4 missions. So you have to do 4 missions to complete the operation itself. And then I have 1 turn effectively to decide to do this. So if I were to say go do this one, which has 2, it's kind of hard to read because the light blue on white is kind of hard to read. This one, if I were to do this one first, I would lose access to this one because then that counts as a turn on this overall system map. Let's say you want to do an operation. Okay, well, let's do this one. As we've alluded to, this one is the one that makes the most sense. And so similar to a lot of like, I don't know, roguelikes or something, like I think of Slay the Spire when I see something like this. I don't know why. I don't know if they were the first to do this or it's just what pops into my head the most, but you have this like branching tree of options. And so naturally when you select, say, this mission down here, if I were to do this mission, I would be excluded from this one and from these 2 because you kind of go down. So if I go to the right, I would be forced to go this way until I go all the way. Pretty straightforward. And then, you might want to decide. You can see here, okay, if I do this mission, this will be my reward. I usually like picking the one that gives me, like, might give me a cool gun or a cool truck or something, right? That's usually the one I want to pick, frankly, because it's just more fun. It's more fun. That's all there is to it. Yeah, so let's plan this mission. We're not going to actually do this. I'm going to talk over some pre-recorded gameplay footage. That way I can show you like the different factions and stuff. So we'll do that later. Once you decide to do a mission, you come in here to the mission prep. Choose who you're going to take into the mission. You can add them to mission. You can remove them from the mission. And this is the deploy screen. It is a little... I don't know. I think they can make this look a little nicer. For early access, it's fine. I do wish this was maybe a little bit more... I don't know, polished. It looks a little, I don't know. I think this could be better, is my opinion. That's my opinion, all right? I think this could look a little bit better. Anywho, these are your units. These are the 4 I've included in this mission. I place them where I want to place them, so maybe I would want to split them up. Personally, I don't really do that because I think that's kind of silly. This game is very punishing. It's very dangerous. Enemies can be very dangerous. And so I like to stick everybody together and keep them together in case somebody gets in trouble. I can have somebody around to help. But, maybe advanced players who know the game really well, maybe they would split up to do this really quickly. I don't know. Personally, I like to clump everybody together. These like darker squares represent cover. And the kind of empty squares represent just kind of empty terrain. And so when I put everybody here, I'm kind of thinking ahead, like there's no real cover here. There's this, I guess I could move to, and you kind of always want to be moving between cover, obviously, or maybe not obviously. I don't know. If you haven't played like XCOM or something, maybe that's not obvious, but you always want to be moving to cover because there's a cover system in the game. But yeah, you outfit your guys. Down here, you have a loadout. This is kind of a supply limit, and you can see each of these items has these little blocks. This represents the supply cost, and so you can't just take a ton of people in, right? Like you can't add the maximum number of units, you just can't deploy anymore, right? Like I can't take everyone. I can only take some of them, and even then I need to make sure that like maybe if I can't take everyone, let's say I do this, I want to take all these units with me. Well, then I might need to like say outfit them a lot cheaper, right? Maybe give this guy worse armor, give them worse armor, and now suddenly I can take them. But yeah, without getting into too much depth, it's hard to not go into depth on this game. I'm trying to keep this short. I've probably failed. I don't know how long I've been yapping. Probably a little too long, honestly. I'm trying to break this down, but there's a lot going on. It's a strategy game. It's the nature of the beast. If there wasn't a lot going on, it probably wouldn't be all that interesting to think about, frankly. Yeah, that's the general overworld. There might be some more little things that I missed, but I think that gives you a pretty good overall idea. Now, let's jump into some gameplay, some actual like mission stuff, the combat, the meat of this whole thing, so that you can see what it looks like to actually fight and use these cool squads that you've outfitted on the battlefield. So let's go do that. All right, time for the actual combat portion of the game where we get to control our units here. Like a lot of strategy games, the game functions off of an action point system. So each unit has roughly like 100 or so action points, somewhere around there, and everything you do, well, nearly everything, costs action points. And really, as you can imagine, using these action points efficiently is really core to the strategy of the game, making sure, you know, you don't use too many of your action points to move or attack. You can see the action points in the bottom left corner every time I select a unit. You can see that AP number. And a little bit into the center of the screen are all the kind of actions I can do with that unit, whether it be attacking, deploying to kind of crouch down and take a defensive position. Also, some of the special weapons require you to be deployed to actually use them. You know, the bigger guns, as you could imagine, stuff like mortars, big old machine guns, stuff like that. And yeah, so, you know, you move your units around, and you can see every time I sort of mouse near some cover, there's a little armor icon popping up, and that represents a cover. Obviously, you know, when you're behind cover, you're harder to hit, you're more defensive, and so you really want to be moving from cover to cover. You don't really want to be out in the open. And if it's not clear, the game is functioning off like a grid-based system here where I'm moving around on a grid. Range also seems to matter as well for how accurate you are. Being at max range is something you kind of want to do because there are a lot of threats that once they get close to you, you're kind of in a lot of trouble, right? Stuff like grenades, flamethrowers. A lot of these alien enemies want to get up close to you and to melee to actually attack you, so a lot of the time you want to kind of keep people at a distance. At least that's been my experience. I've tried to make the close range stuff works, and maybe I just am not very good, but frankly, the best strategy that I've seen, the one that sort of risks my units the least, is to just kind of hunker down at a distance and engage the enemy from as far away as I can to weaken them and maybe even just take them out, right? That's been my strategy. Just don't let the enemy even come close to you, right? Don't let them come close enough to do real damage. Of course, there are things like kind of artillery kind of units, mortars. The aliens have, like, I think it's called a bombardier that can hit you from range, and those you really want to rush down and take out as quickly as possible. So, you know, there are some exceptions like that because those units will do a lot of damage to you if you allow them to. But I've encountered 3 different sort of enemy factions in the game so far. I've encountered aliens, which are kind of your Starship Troopers type enemies. A lot of like melee kind of enemies that will swarm you and just rush you down, that kind of thing. But of course they have ranged units as well. And there are some pirates that are kind of bad-mouthing you the whole time. They just seem kind of like a bunch of salty characters. And then there is the rogue army, which is kind of a more professional kind of situation. They have, you know, fancy vehicles and stuff like that. So kind of an escalation slowly of different types of enemies. And they do feel a little bit different, especially the difference between the aliens and the human factions. I think all the units are cool. And, you know, there are different types of planets too. There's the temperate forest, like I said, the icy one, and the desert one. So you get a nice mix of, you know, environments and stuff like that. It definitely, you know, they vary a little bit in terms of the actual strategy stuff, but really it comes down to some, you know, just small little differences. I'm playing on the normal difficulty. There are 2 difficulties higher than this and an Iron Man mode if you're some kind of sicko. and you're into that kind of thing, the game is really brutal. It is very punishing. Normal is pretty manageable though, overall. Like, I definitely had to save scum a couple times just because I ended up losing a vehicle or something, or just like losing too much in a mission. Just from the learning process of the game, once you learn how some of the units work and get a feel for things, you know, and once you get some better armor, especially, right? Like, you start out with pretty crappy armor. And so really anything like a single grenade will just wipe out half your squad. It's pretty bad. You can just have a whole unit die to a flamethrower. That's happened to me as well. It sucks. And, you know, it's just like part of the learning process, I guess. And so, yeah, obviously, if you want to play on the harder difficulties, you absolutely can. It's there for you if you really want to challenge yourself. For me, I like the normal mode to start off with, just to, you know, get my feet wet, learn the game a little bit. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. You know, I could go into more depth about stats and stuff like that, but I think that's kind of outside the scope of this video. It's not really what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to sort of give you a rundown of what we're dealing with here, what the game's about, you know, give you a general vibe of things. You know, because obviously there's some more depth, there's definitely more strategy you can get into and all that stuff. So, you know, I'll leave that to you guys, because honestly, that's part of the joy of this game, is learning and discovering and coming up with your own strategies. I'm not going to ruin that for you. So, I'll leave that to you, you know. Overall, I think this game is really awesome. Like I said at the beginning, I think this is a pretty good foundation for something, you know, that could become really special as time goes on. I'm really enjoying it already for what's here. There's a lot here to enjoy if, you know, this type of thing is your bag. If you liked Battle Brothers or XCOM or something like that, I mean, there's no reason why I wouldn't recommend this to you, other than to maybe wait until it's a little more finished. You can certainly do that. I've definitely done that with early access stuff. It is an early access game, so it does need more work to sort of be a full product, I guess, but I'm perfectly happy with what's here. Although I am using Game Pass to play it, so, you know, I didn't have to pay the upfront cost of it. But, you know, you do you. If you got Game Pass, it's on Game Pass, PC. You can play it there. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is a little different from what I normally do. So if you did watch it, and thank you very much. And yeah, let me know in the comments if this is something you enjoyed, or, you know, maybe this sucks. You're like, nah, this isn't what I'm into. Let me know. I'd be happy to hear some feedback. Feel free to subscribe or like the video as well if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. You can catch me on Twitch. I'll probably make more YouTube videos. You know, I'll see you in the future. All right, take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time.